A show based on the facts, honesty, the man, the myth, the legend. ChristiTutionalist Joseph M. Leonard.
Welcome to ChristiTutionalist Politics Podcast, aka CTP. I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard, and that's L-E-N-A-R-D. CTP is your no muss, no fuss, just me, you, and an occasional guest type podcast. Really appreciate you tuning in. As Graham Norton would say, let's get on with the show! If you're looking at behind the scenes video, this little segment here, you might be wondering, why in the world am I seeing him in his jacket and hat? Well, I just walked in the door, wanted to sit down, record this before I forgot. What did I want to share before I forgot? Why do I talk about some of the things I talk about? You might think, I already know that. And most everyone I know, or everyone I know, knows that. Well, sometimes we need reminders or refreshers, or to take a moment to rethink about the things we know and how we came to know them. And more importantly, are we actually applying what we know? Are we applying our values and principles? So I don't bring up topics as if I'm some genius trying to teach the masses of idiots things. I know you know most of these things, if not all these things we discuss here. It's about, indeed, some out there who may not, but for us who already did know, to take a moment to think about it again. And indeed, is what I know really accurate? Is what I know being applied in my life? Are my values and principles really being manifested out there? Which is not to say we all don't have bad days and don't live up to our own values and principles, right? I have bad days. We're all human. Christian show. We're talking about humans in an imperfect world, imperfect people. We are all frail. We are all flawed. But the point here is to talk through our things together and rethink these things again to make sure we are trying to be our best selves, at least trying to be our best selves, knowing at times we may fall short. So at any rate, I didn't want to bother to take off my coat and my hat. I needed to sit down immediately and say this before I would forget. Okay? Because, yeah, right? Part of my imperfections and fault is my memory ain't what it used to be. Well, I may have been thinking, oh, yeah, well, I could get around to saying that later. I'd forget. So, at any rate, enough of this little segment. Let's get to whatever the actual show is supposed to be about. Thank you all.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to, let me check my notes here, Season 2, Episode 93, that's slated to drop, let's see here, March 29th. I'm recording this like a week before, but at any rate, information you didn't need to know, right? But just part of my honesty process with you. I want to talk about several. The main thing is about United States Postal Service. But before I get there, Thank you for watching Music Weeks. If you've been watching at the behind-the-scenes sneak peek videos or listening Monday through Friday for the last 3 weeks of March, I've been conducting Music Week. So thank you for having tuned in for that. Or if you've not, go back in the catalog and look at all the great items the last 3 weeks of March, Monday to Friday, 5 days a week, 15 items. Maybe you wouldn't listen or watch all of them, but I would think there's 1 or 2 items that would catch your fancy to please go back and tune in for. Also, the last 2 weeks of February, not a Monday through Friday thing, but I had 3 episodes, 1 the last week of February, 2 the next to last week of February, midweek drops like Tuesday and Thursday, and Friday the last week of February, health weeks. Check those out. And I'm mentioning health weeks here for sure again because, an aside, an update, my friend with the Liberty Beacon, Roger, is apparently back in the hospital. I don't have all the details. I don't know if he suffered another stroke. I sure hope not. I hope maybe the doctor was saying, your progress is not coming like I want, and you're trying to do too much at home. So I want you back in the hospital where I know you'll be stuck in that bed, basically unable to do anything. So, thoughts and prayers to my friend Roger, and of course, on the behind the scenes videos. And another week, I had a thoughts and prayers episode. Please check that out. There's a lot of people out there. We may directly, indirectly, or not even realize we know who have health problems or financial issues in need of our thoughts and prayers. So let's do that, if not specifically by name, in general generic thoughts. Checking my notes. I mentioned Music Weeks, I mentioned Health Weeks, I mentioned Roger. And at the end of this episode, I'm going to tack on a special segment, an influencer without any real influence. If you hadn't caught that in a future episode, I'm going to tack that on to the end of this one so you see that kind of fun, tongue-in-cheek thing. But I mainly want to talk to you about the post office. I have written, not in conjunction with thelibertybeacon.com this time in conjunction with a piece on Blogspot, piece on Substack, but I specifically want to mention the longest version of them all at beforeitsnews.com in the Tea Party category called Abuse, Inefficiency, Waste at USPS finally going to be addressed? ? Exclamation. Finally? The Epoch Times had a headline that said the USPS to work with DOJ to look at putting some efficiencies in the USPS system. Really? Finally? My entire lifetime, there have been me and others been saying there are all kinds of common sense efficiencies that could be put into the system that they have resisted. For I turned 62 last year. Yeah, my entire lifetime. They just People who work for government don't care how much of your money they waste. Finally, maybe some efficiency. I don't expect the post office to start to turn a profit. If they could break even for a change, would be really bleeping nice. And they keep raising the prices, but yet they never do enough to stop their losses. So every 10, 15, 20 years, they're also, on top of raising all the rates, going to Congress to beg for a bailout, of course. Now, if we could get them operating on at least a break-even keel, that would be great. And we didn't need Doge for this. I'm going to discuss a couple common sense solutions could have been done 10, 20, 50 years ago, but they refuse to. They just operate, and they can operate at a loss. They don't care. The taxpayer will always be expected to bail them out. And as long as they're collecting their checks, getting their platinum level benefit packages, we in the private sector don't get, and getting raises well above the annual raises the people in the private sector get, they're getting theirs. They don't care how inefficient it is and how much it's costing us. And that may finally be changing. 2 examples. 1, I work with a nonprofit. Well, over the years, over time, I've worked with several nonprofits, but I'm going to use as an example the one now. Which one? Not important. Any of them. Most nonprofits and even some for-profit businesses send out newsletters. Right? A nonprofit, you want to send something out, of course, to ask for donations. And a newsletter is a great thing to also at the same time tell them, here's what we've been doing with the money you've been donating to us. Please keep donating so we can do more similar things and hopefully even more bigger other things we're not able to do yet because we don't have either the money or the volunteers. So let's just use a newsletter as an example, but a business catalog, right? How many of them do you keep getting? You don't want, they go directly into the trash. It's the same with many newsletters. Bulk rate mail. The nonprofits, the businesses all get a bulk rate license and send at a...
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Joseph M. Leonard, host of ChristiTutionalist, taking a brief moment to thank myarchit.com. Together we share the Christian and family value of honoring family. myarchit.com helps you do that. Preserving family memories online also, therefore, can be shared online. Think of myArchit like a Noah's Ark for images, audio, video, preserving, honoring your family. Thank you again to the folks over at myarchit.com.
Great discount. Now, I understand, you probably understand, we all understand the concept of a bulk discount. The issue is, how much is that discount? And is it actually reflective of reality? And when you're operating at billions of dollars in losses all the time, obviously the rates you're charging aren't realistic. So I say and I'll get into the why it makes sense from both the post office side of things and the nonprofit side of things. Raise by the 4th of July, announced 4th of July, bulk rates, none of the other rates, just the bulk rate will go up by 10%. And then 6 months from then, another 5%. And another 6 months from then, another 5%. Here's why that is good for everybody. The nonprofit I'm at, the cost of the newsletter, or like a business, a catalog, if those costs are going to go up, if we know they're going to go up in the next few months, and then 6 months, and 6 months again after that, we've got warning and time to adjust. Everyone that puts out a newsletter should then put a blurb in the newsletter. Hey, costs are going to go up. We want to be better stewards of the donation monies we get, or if you're a company, the profits we make. If they have stockholders, your stockholder value based on profit margin, stock values, we need to be more efficient also. So please, if you will look at our newsletter online at our website, and if you want to print one out or print out a page, do so from your own home. If you're willing to do that for us and help us reduce our costs and the amount of donation money we're spending sending out a newsletter every month or once a quarter or twice yearly, whatever it may be, if you're willing to help us reduce those costs by looking online, please let us know. We'll take your name off the physical mailed newsletter list, and that will, guess what, reduce the amount of bulk mail that's overburdening the system. As companies and organizations get more efficient by forcing them, because of increased costs, to add efficiency into their mailing lists system. So you don't get, for example, I still get a catalog. It's a thick catalog, big, thick, bulky catalog from somewhere I have not ordered from in 20 plus years. There is no, how many of you are getting catalogs from places that they're going straight into the trash can? If their costs go up to introduce efficiency and save costs, now they can cut names to then so that their mailing costs break even. They don't have to eliminate 50% of their mailings. They can eliminate a fraction, and their costs, like the nonprofit charity I work for, if we cut 10, not even 10% of the names, even if the bulk rate went up 10%, our cost would probably be about the same then, because we'd then also be saving money on the amount we're paying the printer to print so many physical newsletters that we don't need to. And how many catalogs or newsletters are being sent to people that have moved to the current resident who's taking it and throwing it out? Remove those names. Please help us remove people who have moved, or how many newsletters are being sent to places to deceased people. Same with those catalogs. Is anybody telling them, oh, hey, occasionally, yes, at our nonprofit, we'll get a call or a letter from somebody. Thank you so much for over the years sending the newsletter to so-and-so. Unfortunately, so-and-so has passed on. please remove their name from the list. But how many dead people are on the list they're going out to, we don't know about. It would force us to examine our list and get more efficient with our list so that we don't cut our costs, but even at least keep our costs the same, and really truly sending the newsletter or a business, a catalog, to someone who really wants it. So this is good for not only the post office, but forcing organizations and companies into being more efficient. Or if you got money hand over fist to just waste that extra money, all right, then you waste the money. But many organizations will then finally say, okay, we finally now got to get a handle on this mailing list. Force them to do it. It's better for everyone all around. It will reduce the strain and the amount of bulk on the postal system. So they will not necessarily even make more money on the increased fee, will have less need to pay people overtime all the time because there's so much bulk in the system they can't handle. Reduce some of that. That will ease the strain, ease the cost. And we're not talking about firing anybody here. We're talking about being able to cut down on the overtime pays being shelled out, ridiculous costs, get them closer to profitability. In my abuse, inefficiency, waste, and USPS finally going be addressed before its news article, let me scroll down my other example. You know, I'm an author. Yes, 5 internationally available books. Sometimes people order an autographed copy of one of my books directly from me rather than buying it from Amazon, Books A Million, or Barnes & Noble, or any of those umpteen million places it's available for purchase. Any of them are. But some will want an autographed copy. It's nice to have. I have several books in my bookshelf of authors' books autographed. I cherish those, having those. So I send out books through the post office via media rate. When I do so, I see that what used to be a 2-week or sometimes a little more delivery rate is basically treated like first class mail. I'm paying a bulk rate, reduced rate, media rate, but I'm getting first class service. Why? Why is that? If I'm not paying for it to be first class delivered, I should not be getting first class delivered. And my book getting there in 7 business days is just as fine as it getting there in 3 business days. That's not going to make that much of a difference. So bulk media and media rate mail, how about we only handle those on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays? That means Tuesdays and Thursdays, there's far less need for as many people because they're only handling first class mail on those days. It enters an efficiency into the system and does not really degrade the service we're getting when we weren't paying for first class delivery in the first place. Go back to the newsletter thing. The bulk rate, we drop them off, and we know when people are getting copies of the newsletter. And again, it's almost basically treated like first-class mail. It's getting there in 3 days, 4, sometimes 5. Does it really need to be treated as first-class mail? No. These are simple, common sense things we have all known for decades. They could have been doing, but they just don't because they don't care. These are minor changes that can be done that will have little impact on the service. And if you want first-class handling, then pay for the first-class handling. It's that simple. Don't give something to someone they are not paying for. It's real simple. Okay, at any rate, those are just 2 simple, common sense efficiencies that could have been put into the system ages ago and gotten the post office closer to operating at a budgetary level that at least they don't lose as much money. Again, I'm not looking to turn them into UPS or FedEx and turn a profit, although that would be really nice for a change if the post office could start paying back the Treasury for all the bailouts in the past we have given them. Get them closer to at least breaking even. There's no excuse for these constant billions of dollar losses every year. Okay, at any rate, I'm going to wrap it up there. Please see the beforeitsnews.com article about this abuse, inefficiency, waste at the USPS finally being addressed? Question mark. For more, there's more in the article. So now I'm going to get to that. An influencer without any real influence. It's kind of a fun story, so I hope you'll stay tuned in for that. Thanks. Take care. God bless.
Hello, everybody. Don't adjust your video. Right. I didn't bother to pull down the green screen all the way. So if you're seeing part of the ugly couch as a joke, that's because I didn't bother to pull down the green screen all the way. And I apologize that you see me if you're looking behind the scenes in my nightwear. I know, probably TMI, right? But I've always told you, this is your no muss, no fuss, just me, right? Very informal. This is me. This is what you get. I'm not putting on any airs. Just I wanted to briefly record this segment before I forgot. I was at an eatery and I just happened to overhear a woman at the next booth. It came out of her mouth about someone. She or he, doesn't matter. Point is, not like I was eavesdropping on their conversation, but came out of her mouth, an influencer without any real influence. That was such a great line that it went in my ears subconsciously and immediately leapt to my conscious level. And if you know me personally, you know, I'll talk to anybody. I don't need a formal introduction, but that was such a great line. I got up and told her, it's like, oh my God, I just happened to hear you say that line. An influencer without any real influence. Now, you also know, if you're at all a regular viewer or listener to the show, that I joke all the time and say, at any rate, as an ongoing gag segue, and at any rate would be a great name for a podcast. Well, If you were to want to do an informal show, kind of like I do, but I deal in serious subject matter all the time. But if you were doing a lighthearted kind of fun show with guests about whatever, everyday things, and not necessarily always going deep into subjects, an influencer without any real influence would also be a great name for a podcast. So at any rate, indeed, there we go again, right? I just had to record this before hopping into bed, before I would forget. So at any rate, indeed, I told her too, I'd give her a shout out in the show. She'll know who she is. I hope she's tuned in. Thank you for having tuned in for ChristiTutionalist Politics Show. If you haven't already, please check out my primary internationally available book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you. Available anywhere books are sold. For starters, it's just you as a very appreciated listener by me. All substance, no fluff, just straight to key discussion points. A show that looks at a variety of topics, mostly politics, through a Christian U.S. constitutionalist lens. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Take care. God bless. Like and subscribe to ChristiTutionalist Politics Podcast and share episodes. We need your help.
Wham Radio, 1600 AM and 92.7 FM is your conservative flamethrower. Weekdays, Steve Gruber starts things off at 6 a.m. Gruber gives his perspective on the issues of the day. At 9 a.m., Glenn Beck blazes the airwaves with his nationally syndicated program. From noon to 3, it's Dennis Prager. At 3 o'clock, it's Wham's own Thayrone X. On the Edge, Thayrone tells it exactly as he sees it. At 6, it's The Dana Show, your conservative alternative. At 8, don't miss Joe Pags. Weekends are filled with conservative talk as well. Fingers Malloy, Thomas LeDuc, The Abolitionists Roundtable, A Moment of Clarity with Pastor Rick, Your American Heritage with Ed Bondarenka, Dave Janda's Operation Freedom, and Dick Kupke's Trigger Talk. You can even get links to Wham podcasts from Dave, Dick, and of course Thayrone, all from their pages on our website, whamradio.com. Keep it locked on Wham Radio, 1600 AM and 92.7 FM in southeastern Michigan, and whamradio.com anywhere in the world.